Okay, Peter, let's start with you. This latest tariff increase of non-CUSMA related goods is not in and of itself, right, going to have a big impact on the economy. 95% of goods still travel across the border tariff-free under the NAFTA deal. So what is the significance then of Trump's latest executive order on tariffs?
To me, at least, there are a couple of important things. One is for those producers of products that are facing that higher tariff now, this is yet more pain. And yes, 95% of products going across aren't going to face it, but a lot of companies make a lot of stuff that still does go across, and it's a headache, and it's extra cost, and it's more uncertainty. But that's the bigger thing, is the uncertainty here is enormous. And this is a deepening of the crisis. Every step we take to make trade between Canada and the United States even a little harder is really hard to undo. That is a bell that cannot be unrung.
Rob, I suppose this could have been worse for Canada. What is your take, though? Is this a success or a failure for Prime Minister Carney?
No way can this be called a success. Look, the tariff at 35% on Canada is, I think, the third highest that he's applied around the globe. Brazil's number one at 50. I think Syria's at 41. And we're number 3 in terms of the punitive nature of the tariff. The president's not taking the prime minister's calls. There are no formal discussions scheduled for the next little while. I assume they're going to be talking over the phone. But people have come back from Washington.
To your point about other countries, Peter, Mexico's Prime Minister Claudia Sheinbaum was able to secure a 90-day reprieve and a tariff increase. Canada wasn't able to do that. Mexico didn't impose retaliatory tariffs. Canada did. Is it too early to tell which tactic works best when negotiating with someone like Trump?
I think it is, because it's a study in contrast. What the Mexican government and their trade team have decided, the approach they took is fundamentally, it's like the polar opposite, the flip side of the same coin from what Canada has done. And the problem is we're still in the midst of this. I looked through all of these deals that were agreed to leading up to the imposition of tariffs on Thursday night. I don't see anything in the South Korea deal or the Japan deal or even the Mexican deal that I sort of banged my fist on the table and said, boy, I sure wish the Canadian team had landed that.
Right. Rob, the Carney government has increased spending on border security, in an effort to appease the Trump administration over the fentanyl issue. They also axed the digital services tax. What else can Carney do at this point?
Not a lot in terms of appeasement, because I think they've gone as far as they can go. If I listen to Minister LeBlanc, as I did on Radio Canada this afternoon, he seemed to suggest that the Americans were looking for us to take down the $30 billion counter tariffs that we imposed earlier this year. Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary in Washington, made a point of saying that Canada was only one of 2 countries that imposed counter tariffs, that retaliated in effect. I get the impression that the Americans would like to see those come down. I don't know how you do that, given that Mr. Carney did pull back the digital sales tax and got absolutely nothing for it. One thing he could do, if I listen to Americans here and some of those in Washington, one thing he could do is talk to Mr. Trump more often. They're never going to be bosom buddies. They are completely different animals. You couldn't get more cat and dog in a way. But that being said, some Americans are urging Mr. Carney to develop more of a relationship with Mr. Trump, some kind of relationship that is apart from the tussle over trade. It's a tough one, but I've covered lots of prime ministers, and I know that when you have a better relationship at the summit level, a lot of the problems underneath can get cleared away in a hurry. That's a difficult one for Mark Carney, but he is being urged to call more often, and call not necessarily on trade. The whole Palestinian issue is one thing that that was brought to the fore. Could he have called up the White House ahead of time and said, we're going to do this, and then maybe use it as an excuse to get into trade? Perhaps.
That's an interesting take. I want to talk a little bit before we go about optics and perception. You're down in Washington, Peter. A trade war is usually not good for any country. Do you get any sense that the Canada-U.S. trade conflict is on the minds of Americans? And what's the coverage been like stateside?
This trip has been the first time that my explanation to people, whether it's a dinner party or an interview or just talking to friends, people seem to understand not only that Canadians are upset, but that they are taking actions that are posing some problems for the Canadian, for the American economy. Whether that's in tourism, the liquor issue has come up several times in this trip, where people seem to recognize that there's been a break in the way that we think about the United States, and that impact might actually be something material that would be hard to change. And I think the notion that is even in the conversation was interesting to me. But again, the thing that I think stood out was what I talked to you at the beginning of the show about. The jobs numbers that came in have shown a bit of a crack in the economic foundation in this country. That's getting a lot of play. People wondering if this notion that the American economy was thriving in spite of tariffs might not have been an aversion of that they didn't avert the trouble, they merely delayed it, and that trouble is now right at their door.
Look, I appreciate your insight. Thank you both.
You bet.
Pleasure, Ash.